if I get Sherlock Holmes in here and have him solve the case of what the fuck went wrong with this movie. Now, I can only speak for myself. I'm not speaking for everybody. I have to admit, I was let down by this. I love that first movie so much, and I was watching this movie tonight, and I was just like, man, that's just way too much.
Corey, are you kidding? Because you're saying exactly the same thing I was saying.
Oh, okay, because you were the main one. I thought you were going to take your glove off and come over here and slap me with it.
No, not at all. I need Sherlock Holmes to come and decipher what was this movie about.
Yes.
I thought you were over there too busy, like, thinking about what you're going to do before you're actually going to do it, like Sherlock Holmes, and have it take around 10 minutes to do before you actually get to the scene.
See, that's what I thought in slow motion. He was predicting, like, from the moment I opened my mouth, he was like, okay, he's about to say some bullshit. I take glove off hand, come over, smack him on his cheek.
You know what? That was one of the aspects that really worked about the first one. I really loved that they did that. That looked in the trailers all scary. You were like, I don't know. Too much slow motion, Guy Ritchie. And then you were like, oh, well, it makes sense in the context. Here, it's awkward the way they do it. But you know, I mean, there's points they're using slow motion when it's not that. And you're like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
This is not, we had an agreement.
The problem is that they're taking away, at least what I thought, the detective element of it all, and having him all of a sudden have this superpower of visualizing everything he's going to do and then do it, where I'm like, do we really need to go through this every time he thinks about doing something? Because it's really destroying the pace of the movie, and it's making this movie just really absurd and ridiculous.
Well, see, like I said, they did that all through the first one, and I liked it a lot. I thought it was a really neat new way of interpreting the way his mind worked, because they not only managed to throw in action, so people can go, okay, there's actual fighting, but they also make it make sense in the context of Sherlock Holmes. And I like that. Like I said, here, though, it didn't quite make so much sense. But it's weird that y'all didn't like this. I actually did like this film.
Oh,
I just liked it for entirely the opposite of reasons that I liked the first one.
Really?
Like the stuff that I think didn't work that well in the first one worked here, and vice versa.
And I can see some people liking this movie. That's why I'm saying it's just me. I know that a lot of people had problems with the first movie, and I loved it. And I agree with you. I was talking to a friend on the phone tonight, and they said I wasn't too crazy about the first Sherlock Holmes. So what about this one? I was like, well, if you didn't like that one, then you're going to really dislike this one. I thought, like, oh, maybe not. I can't tell. I don't know. But see, co-host, you're right. In this movie, like, his powers of deduction by looking around and putting clues together in the first movie, it felt like, okay, he really is, in his mind, putting clues together. In this movie, he's a goddamn psychic, man.
Well,
yeah, he's seeing the future.
Overdone like crazy.
Yeah,
Well, everything is overdone. Like, to me, this movie is everything I was afraid the first movie was going to be from those trailers. But here, it starts out. This is the Iron Man 2 of Sherlock Holmes movies.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, a lot more comedy and shenanigans, a convoluted plot where I'm like, wow, you got a lot of stuff in here that really could be taken out to make this overly long. And then just gimmicks. Gimmick. It's like, where's the story? Where's the actual dialogue between Holmes and Watson that was so great? I mean, this time all they do is like, you know, this was my wedding day. You ruined my honeymoon. Okay,
Well,
back again. You know, you ruined my honeymoon. It's like, wait, you're going to beat this same joke into the ground?
You know what this movie could have been called? It could have been called Holmes, because that's all Watson was doing. Why, Holmes? Not again, Holmes. You're right. It's my wedding day, Holmes. Oh, how could you, Holmes? And the movie starts out with nothing but buffoonery. It's action-packed, but it's action-packed buffoonery. I mean,
it's The Odd Couple. It really is.
And all the action in it is played up to too much comic effect. At first, I thought, like, are they trying to make this a family movie? Because they don't want to really kill anybody, but they're doing a lot of slapstick in the middle of the action. That slow-mo doesn't really work for it when it's played up to too much of a comedic effect. And they actually showed them running around. Now, I know what they were trying to do. They were trying to make it look cool by showing them running from one balcony to another at the beginning of the movie. But I'm like, man, that looks like some Keystone Cop shit going on right there.
Well, yeah. Sherlock Holmes went from Batman to Jackie Chan all of a sudden.
Yeah.
When it starts.
Yeah.
And to me, it was just like, wow, this is shades of Iron Man 2 and even Spider-Man 2, where they're like, all right, we established this character. Now we got to get him doing something that's kind of fun and bring everybody in. Something wacky, like delivering pizzas, or this. He's doing kung fu ballet all over the place. It's like, no, that's not what this is about. understand. But I'm going to let it go because you're trying to start somewhere and it's going to get better.
No, I agree that it was a very shaky start. I agree. I was very uncomfortable with the exact same things that you are. But I think that you said you thought there was more hijinks in comedy. And I think what I liked about this that I did not expect to like was that there actually was a lot less, that they get serious, they get darker, and you have to. It's a story of Sherlock Holmes versus Moriarty, who is not just a typical mustache twirling villain in the books. He is Sherlock Holmes' equal, but he's a fucking psychotic serial killer at the same time. I mean, the guy is evil personified, is the nature of it. And I think this movie, as far as trying to take that tone and go in that direction, it did work for me.
I felt the opposite, except for the last 15 minutes.
Yeah, I couldn't buy any of it, with the exception of the last 15 minutes, where I was like, the last 15 minutes is about as close as I think you can possibly get to what the essence of that whole rivalry between Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty is all about.
Man, you two need to be my Watsons, because that's what I was thinking too. I was thinking like, wow, this whatever I wanted from this movie did not happen to the last 15 minutes. And to tell you what the movie about, and it's important to tell you what it's about, because there is a lot going on.
This should be interesting.
Well, I can tell you to a certain point before I call Sherlock Holmes in here and tell him to decipher this shit for me. Hey, man, take it up from here and do a little slow-mo recap of our review. But where in the first movie, Sherlock Holmes was pretty much going up against hysteria based around superstition and him coming in and proving it with science. I know what they wanted. They want to make a bigger and grander story, and in a way they do, because in this one, you have things like industrial weaponry going on that's beginning to pop up in the forms of bombings going on around the city. You have political figures mysteriously dying. Is it suicide? Nobody knows. And, Sherlock Holmes comes in. He's like, that's all right. I got this shit, okay? I'm Sherlock Holmes. I'll solve this. But then he starts to, pin it all together. And he's like, wait a minute. This all comes down to that motherfucker. And that motherfucker being Moriarty, which is, everybody who keeps up the stories of Sherlock Holmes knows Professor James Moriarty. That is the Joker to Sherlock Holmes.
He's
Batman.
The Darth Vader of the 19th century.
That's Luthor.
Yeah. No, he is as smart, if not smarter, definitely more evil than Sherlock Holmes. And so,
well, we like to think Sherlock Holmes isn't evil at all.
He's kind of a sociopath in his own way, but he's not evil. He's not empathetic, generally speaking. But his side of the game is the white pieces, and that's established, and that's just how it is.
Yeah, basically, if Sherlock Holmes was a sociopathic killer, then Moriarty would be that guy. And he starts to realize that Moriarty has probably everything to do with all of these bombings and deaths that are happening, which, pits them two together. And what you want to see as this game of wits, these two the super intelligent guys going at it. But Moriarty comes in, he's like, are you sure you want to play this game, Holmes? Because I don't, because I'm going to disappear from this movie for the next 40 minutes and you ain't going to see my ass.
Well, whatever game there was, it was completely blown the fuck up.
That game must have been hide and seek, because that motherfucker was gone. And I was like, wait a minute, for a movie that's supposed to be based around Sherlock Holmes going up against his arch nemesis, the only guy who can match wits with him, they didn't do anything with that at all until the last 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's funny because since the last movie, I've been really getting into Sherlock Holmes, reading the books and listening to radio dramas, and so much of this was just so completely divorced from that until that last 15 minutes. I mean, when Moriarty would show up and they would talk, it'd be like, all right, let's get this going. But it was lacking a sense of urgency because I just lost track of what is it they're racing to do, or they were racing to do, because now they're sitting around joking and wearing different clothes. I don't get it anymore.
Actually, I didn't have any problem following the plot in this one. The previous one confused me more than this one did. What confused me is that I thought this was wearing this enough on its sleeve, and it still didn't make sense at points. I was like, wait, but what are you doing? Why would that be that way? Like, for instance, there's a sequence where Moriarty and all his evil sets off an explosion to kill one guy, because the explosion is just there to cover an assassin's bullet through the wall to kill the guy in a room that was blown up where everyone else in the room died anyway. So why did you need the assassin's bullet? It doesn't make any goddamn sense.
I will say that Jared Harris, who plays Moriarty, I thought he was great. For the moments that he was on screen, I thought he played it cold as he should, because that's what makes a scary villain. When he's sitting up there being all polite, but in the back of his mind, he's like, you son of a bitch, I'm going to kill you.
He was good, but he was completely wasted. It was like when they cast Mark Strong as Sinestro. I mean, great performance, but you know what? It would have been nice if something was actually written for him to do to make him be that villain instead of the audience just knowing, okay, this is Sherlock Holmes Joker, to his Batman. You forget about that whole dynamic between the two because the movie is riddled with explosions, slow-paced action scenes. Looking at this is like looking at your dog put its head out at the window and see its cheeks go all over the place. I'm like, why is that? Why is that exciting for an action
like
scene?
That?
I get it. No, I don't like that.
I watched the dog with his head out the window channel pretty much all day.
Yeah, like I said, it's on TV and it's for free. I can't tell people go see that because it's something you have seen before, and I've seen it done a lot smarter. And for Sherlock Holmes films, I expect more from it. I mean, right now BBC has a great Sherlock Holmes show, and I watched that. Couldn't you get some of those writers to bring some cleverness to this instead of turning it into an 80s action film? Which there's times I don't mind that, but for this, I wanted more. And
this deserved better.
Yeah, but I will say, if there's anything positive I have to say about it, I thought Robert Downey Jr. was having the time of his life playing Sherlock Holmes with this. I enjoyed watching him, but it did feel like he's chewing up scenery, but it's all going to be wasted with this really kind of like thin plot line.
I don't know. He was one of the things I liked the least about it. But with the first one, I thought he did such a great job of overcoming everybody's expectations of like, well, he doesn't look like Sherlock Holmes. He's American. How's he going to do it? It's like, God damn, if he didn't pull that together. Here, once again, the whole Iron Man 2 thing where, hey, this character that I loved before, now he's way too playful to the point of being annoying. It's like, you know what? You need to tone it down.
I don't think there was a problem with his performance. It was the way it was written this time around.
I'll give you that.
Because I thought he nailed it just like he did in the first one. But they have him and Mycroft, his brother as well, played by Stephen Fry.
Yeah.
Who at first is like really like, oh, that's great. They brought in Mycroft, and what a great guy to play his arrogant but equally brilliant older brother. But there's like sequences in there that I guess tie back to stuff in the books, but in the movie they just feel like, oh, they're not geniuses that do everything for a specific reason. They're just plain quirky.
They're just eccentric. Yeah, Mycroft is played completely for laughs, and that was a huge disappointment. I mean, it's a disappointment as a fan of the books, but just as somebody who's not a fan, who's just somebody who's watching a movie, it's like the last thing this movie needed was one more comedy relief in it.
And the biggest problem here, unlike the first one, much to the surprise of people who said this is nothing like the books, who hadn't actually read the books, this is really nothing like the books until the end. But that ending is a really nice little surprise for fans of Sherlock Holmes that pulls everything back together in a sort of like, oh, I can't believe they had the balls to actually do this.
I know.
And it's well chosen. I mean, sure, it's a rewrite of the timeline, but hey, it's neat the way they integrate it.
I guess my problem really does come down to how much comedy they put in the movie, because in the first movie, the relationship between Sherlock Holmes and Watson, who again is played here by Jude Law, I really felt the friendship between them. But in this movie, where they're running around bumbling and everything, it really does take you out of the believability of not only Robert Downey Jr. being Sherlock Holmes, but even that he's British. And all of a sudden, he turned
I felt that way too.
Yeah, all of a sudden, he's like, okay, you're a guy who's faking a British accent now. Well, I bought it in the first movie. And I tell you, Sherlock Holmes, being the intelligent guy that he is, in the first movie, again, without less comedic stuff going on, I was like, all right, I can buy him being a master of disguise. In this movie, he's got the worst fucking costumes. I was like, because he's talking about how he's been spying Moriarty everywhere. And I was like, how did Moriarty not spy the guy in that old grocery store ass costume back there that he had? I mean,
he bought your outfit from Big Lots.
I mean, that's the point. Yeah, it is.
Who's the guy dressed like Harpo Marx falling asleep in the front row?
I was like, who's the guy dressed up like Snooki from Jersey Shore? Are they not even trying?
I mean, that's a point where he actually had on some hillbilly teeth, some googly eyed glasses, and a ball cap. And I was like, even if you can't tell that's Robert Downey Jr., that's somebody in a costume that's following you, man.
Come on. Like Jerry Lewis has more convincing disguises in his arsenal.
That's all you needed was Sherlock. I mean, because he's walking around bumming this shit like,
I was hoping to see him in a sushi outfit. Like, as a Japanese chef. Unga, you sit down. Have good food.
I wouldn't have been surprised if he was in blackface or doing some other bad shit.
He already did that.
I know. Can I carry these bags for you, Mr. Moriarty, sir?
This will be steampunk blackface. Yeah. So you have the white lips and everything.
Well, he's so beaten up through this whole movie and covered in suit. Yeah. It practically is blackface.
Yeah, it's true.
He's constantly walking around covered in shit.
Oh, he is, man. Yeah, he's dirty. And there's a couple of things I was like, man, did I really go there the whole? Tell me if somebody noticed this. You know, this is a Warner Brothers film. Maybe I'm reading into it too much, and it's not a complaint. Just something I saw. When Robert Downey Jr. was in drag, and he took his clothes off and the makeup, and it was smeared all over his face, did he not look like the Joker to you?
He did look like
I totally thought
like that. Like that was somebody putting in an in joke right there.
I think it couldn't be missed.
He probably read the script of this movie. He's like, oh, they ain't gonna make a third one after this shit. So I might as well get ready. Yeah, I might as well get ready for my next job.
Well, you know what? Now that you bring it up, he would make a good Joker.
Yeah,
I think we need a campaign for that.
Shit, he made a good joke in this, and he
was the Joker in this. He really was the Joker. There's a good part where I'm like, wow, are they really taking a path where Sherlock Holmes at the end of this movie is just going to end up being a psychotic nut? I mean, because they were really playing him like that, more so than the first movie, I thought. But
yeah,
I still liked it. I enjoyed the hell out of his performance.
It's funny, like in the context of like not even so much Arthur Conan Doyle's original writings, but in other people writing